Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are diving straight into a truly wild historical paradox. We are going to look at how the gritty, hands-on reality of Egyptian mummification and some absolutely terrifying ancient surgeries that actually worked reveal a brilliant, yet fundamentally flawed medical theory. You see, if you want to understand exactly what ancient Egyptians believed about human biology, there is absolutely no better evidence than what they did to the dead. Mummification wasn't just some symbolic ritual, right? It required real, intense physical interventions that left us a permanent record of their anatomical beliefs thousands of years before anyone even had a concept of cells.
So what do the dead actually reveal to us? Well, imagine stepping out of the glaring desert sun and right into the dim, heavy, perfumed air of an ancient embalming tent. By looking at this sacred space, we get to see exactly how these people interacted with the human body way before the invention of the microscope. Every single cut, every preservation technique, and frankly, every discarded piece tells a massive story about their understanding of how we tick.
Section 1. The mummification process.
Okay, so the embalmers didn't just casually wrap bodies in bandages, they performed highly specialized internal procedures to meticulously prepare the dead for eternity. And at its peak, embalming was a very deliberate, almost surgical sequence. Step 1, they make a small, precise incision in the abdomen. Step 2, highly trained specialists carefully extract 4 major organs. We're talking the stomach, the intestines, the liver, and the lungs. Step 3 involved individually treating these organs with drying natron salt to preserve them perfectly. And finally, Step 4, these preserved organs went into 4 separate sacred containers called canopic jars, each fiercely guarded by one of the 4 sons of Horus. This wasn't just rough handling, these were critically important structures that they believed were absolutely worth saving forever.
But with all of this incredible, meticulous preservation happening in the torso, it begs a pretty massive question. What about the brain? I mean, we've accounted for the stomach, the liver, the lungs, the intestines. So what happened to the central computer, the organ that we modern humans consider the absolute core of who we are? The answer is honestly pretty shocking. Unlike those other organs, the brain was typically pulled right through the nose using this specialized hooked instrument. It was physically broken up, completely scrambled in the process, and then they just threw it away. Seriously, it wasn't preserved, it didn't get a secret jar. It was essentially treated as garbage, and to our modern ears, knowing what the brain does, that sounds completely unbelievable.
Section 2. The brain versus the heart.
Because here's the thing, this wasn't a clumsy mistake. It was actually part of a highly logical, totally coherent theory of the body. It was just built on a totally different premise than ours. In the Egyptian mind, the heart was the ultimate center of human existence. It was the absolute seat of thought, of emotion, of your entire identity. It was the one organ absolutely required for judgment in the afterlife. But the brain? They genuinely believed the brain served almost no real purpose other than producing mucus. So the heart stays and the brain goes.
The heart was considered so undeniably vital that it wasn't just left inside the body. It was often given extra VIP security. Embalmers would carefully place a special amulet, a heart scarab, directly over it. This was to guarantee the heart was protected and ready to testify for the deceased during that final judgment. It is just a beautiful testament to how deeply their anatomical theories were woven into their spiritual beliefs.
Section 3. Early anatomical knowledge.
Now, before we judge them too harshly for scrambling brains, we really have to look at the Edwin Smith Papyrus. This ancient medical document is incredible. It proves they didn't just know where organs were located, they actually understood intricate details about how the body functioned. The text accurately describes the pulse, and it correctly connects that pulse right back to the heart. It even outlines how different parts of the body communicate through a network of vessels. So they had a very early, very functional grasp that our bodies contain a complex internal transport system.
And what is truly wild here is their unrivaled, direct physical experience. Unlike most ancient cultures, whose anatomical knowledge was mostly just philosophical or guessed by looking at the outside of a body, Egyptian embalmers were not guessing. They gained incredibly practical, hands-on knowledge from repeating these exact internal procedures on untold numbers of burials over thousands of years. They knew what a healthy liver looked like. They felt the texture of a lung. They literally had an unparalleled physical intimacy with the human interior.
Section 4. Modern paleopathology. Fast forward to today, and we don't even need to unwrap a mummy to see what's inside. Modern CT scans are unlocking a literal treasure trove of ancient ailments that are perfectly preserved within these bodies. We're finding parasitic infections, beautifully healed bone fractures, severe dental disease. But most astonishingly, we're finding evidence of real, successful surgical interventions. We're talking about things like trepanning, where a hole is deliberately and carefully drilled right into the skull, and cataract couching to restore vision. These ancient surgeries actually worked, and it leaves us utterly terrified yet completely amazed, looking through this lens of, how on earth did they know this would work? We can literally read the successful medical history of someone who lived millennia ago, all without disturbing a single bandage.
But perhaps the most staggering discovery of all is tied to this number right here, 3,000. Researchers have found concrete, undeniable evidence of atherosclerosis, which is hardened arteries, in Egyptian mummies dating back 3,000 years. And why does this matter? Well, it completely rewrites our understanding of cardiovascular disease. It proves, for sure, that heart disease isn't just some modern lifestyle problem caused by fast food and sitting at a desk all day. It has actually been a fundamental part of the human condition for thousands of years.
Section 5. History's Accidental Medical Record.
The crazy part is, the only reason we can study 3,000-year-old hardened arteries is entirely due to the Egyptians' beautifully flawed worldview, because they believe they were meticulously treating these bodies as spiritual containers meant for eternity. They unintentionally gifted modern science one of history's absolute best-preserved medical records. Their embalming process, which was built on a flawed anatomical theory that prized the heart and trashed the brain, ended up flawlessly preserving the exact tissues modern paleopathologists need today to trace the ancient origins of human disease. It really all boils down to this crucial point. Direct physical experience with the human body doesn't automatically produce a correct theory of how it works. You can physically handle every single organ with absolute pinpoint precision. You can care for it deeply, map its location perfectly, and you can still fundamentally misunderstand which one is actually running the show. The Egyptians had the raw data, but their cultural lens caused them to completely misinterpret the central processor.
Which leaves us with this final, provocative thought. If the ancient Egyptians could be so incredibly hands-on, if they could successfully perform terrifying surgeries and be so advanced in physical preservation, yet completely dismiss the brain as a useless mucus maker, what modern medical certainties of ours are going to look completely backward to scientists in 3,000 years? It is a pretty humbling reminder that our understanding of the human body is always evolving. Keep questioning the consensus, stay incredibly curious, and thank you so much for joining me for this explainer.